Hello everyone, and welcome to C-View Quantum Network. I'm your presenter Daniel, and I'm here with producer Claudia Pareco. Our opening song features Reach for the Stars, from Cyclone's new album, Showtime, available on all music stores and platforms. A moment of your time is one of the most extraordinary gifts we could ever be given. We are honored every time we've received a moment of your time. We are servants of the new age, the time of prophecy, the time of the ascending sixth sun. We are a platform for alchemists and multidimensional souls. We connect with many planes of reality and assist the awakening journey. We are pure light, transmitters of high vibrational light out into reality. Our shows are held on Fridays at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time. At any moment to participate on our shows, please call 805-830-8344 and press 1 to talk with the host. Call for free at 805-830-8344 and wait in line, or you can use Take My Call, and for $11 you can jump the long list of callers. Do so at www.paypal.me/PURECO/11, and then please PM or email Claudia Pareco at cview1111@gmail.com and include the phone number you'll be using to call the show. All of our podcasts are easily found in all social media and are available free, live, or on demand. To request a show, please write to Claudia Pareco at cview1111@gmail.com or visit our website, cview1111.net. Now, let's listen to our host and topic of the day.
Thank you, Danny, and welcome everybody to CView 2021 and Karen Fullerton's Inspirational Series coming full circle. Karen Fullerton is a transformational teacher and healer who specializes in freeing women from emotional reactiveness. The real you is inside. She is the author of a process she likes to call InSPIRITation. She reminds listeners that you have a higher purpose, inspired to serve others on your soul-led path. So what do you do with the intense feelings of frustration, overwhelm, disappointment, fear, or whichever other emotion you can think of on the journey towards your dreams? Listening to your body, your emotions, and your heart is a subtle art, she says. And she has created this inspirational series so we can focus our attention in different areas of our evolutionary path. Now, on today's topic, coming full spiral. Well, if you say that you have come full circle or have turned full circle, what you mean is that after a long series of events or changes, the same situation that you started with still exists, or you're coming back to that point. But what is the difference between full circle and full spiral? Let's bring the expert on that topic to the show, and remember that you can find Karen Fullerton at KarenFullerton.com. Okay, so Karen, welcome to this interesting topic that makes you think before you say coming full circle. Hey, Karen.
Hi. Thanks, Claudia. I'm so excited to be here and just have a discussion on this. I shared with you right before going live that I feel like this time this show is more like a coffee chat, kind of like a back and forth and a discussion of, the differences and kind of organically where this leads will remain to be seen, I suppose. My you described it very well. We say coming full circle. You think of the same point, a completion where, oh my gosh, this has happened again. Normally, we tend to think of that when it's something that's unbeneficial to us, right? Like, why is this happening again? Because who's going to complain about something, right? Wonderful, like that keeps coming into our lives. This discussion is about the difference of coming full circle versus full spiral. And, a spiral is the evolution, right? It's kind of infinite if you think about it, right? Circling from the inside out, and it keeps going around in a circular motion, but this brings depth to it, and you grow outward, you continue to grow. So, that's what I would really love to chat about, and why is this important? Why is this topic important? And like your introduction, I love to work with women, especially become emotionally resilient. And I feel this is a key topic, a key concept for just starting to do that in order to become more aware and, being the observer of your life so that we can move through the either repeating patterns or similar patterns, because we always have a choice to use what we've learned and to put them into practice. I feel like that is a key component of evolution. A spiral is evolution, and it doesn't mean that we're going to get rid of, air quotes, difficult times in our lives, but by using the tools that I just shared, and by the way, I do have a free e-booklet on emotional resiliency in a exercise that I'll share a little bit later on. But this is the ability to see things from a different perspective while looking at our experiences, right? Our experiences guide us to the learning. Wouldn't you say so, Claudia, that, experiences are what allow us to grow through versus become stuck?
It does, and I love also where you're talking about evolutionary and growth and all of those words that, to me, it speaks about our own divinity, our own. When you start seeing yourself as who we truly are, which is these beings of light, of constant evolution and growth, we understand that we are constantly changing, constantly shifting. So I love when I see that spiral, and instead of thinking that I'm going to go back to the same spot, I am actually going back to something similar. But because it's a spiral, I'm always going to be having that extra experience or knowledge that puts me in a different spot with a different perspective. So to me, it gives me hope, Karen, that even though at the moment I might be frustrated of being back to the same place, I know I am not. I know that now I have tools that prepare me differently to whatever situation I am now in front of.
Yes, exactly. And there is another saying that I feel represents this very closely. You might have heard, evolve or repeat. And although I also like that saying, I truly feel like you just said the repeat, it might appear like we're stuck or we're in the same spot. And that could very well be. That would, if you feel that way, that's the experience, that's the emotion that we need to work with and to clear, because it could be something that needs to work through in order to really kind of have a trajectory to that next level of the spiral. So there is a sense of being stuck or repetition, and because I've been there, I'll just say I've been there, where I, after, nearly 20 years of being a student of energy work and Reiki, I kept seeing something repeat and could not figure it out, right? Even with my, I guess, perspective that this is happening for me, not to me. And so we always need a little help sometimes to get us out of what we can't see for ourselves. But even that is part of the spiral, if that makes sense. So knowing when to reach out to get help versus knowing when to take that internal power, because there is very much a balance. I feel like, especially now, there is a lot of learning going on in energy of finding our own power, the empowerment within, and questioning, questioning how things have either always have been done in the past, even experience or experimenting with new modalities. If you're not finding the same resolution, the same resolve, the same healing with what you're used to doing, to be open, right, and just being able to receive something new that will, allow you to take that self-care to another level. And I really honestly wanted this topic because I'll share with you that this came to me after moving back to the Sarasota, Bradenton area. And I lived here by myself. I was single with my dog, Sergey, my Siberian Husky, who is the namesake of my nonprofit. We were here in 2002 to 2005. And you'll hear me talk about reflection a lot. So when we moved back here, it was like, wow, how I used reflection to see how far and what I've, gone through to appreciate where I am now. And that wasn't without difficulty. I'll share a little bit of that story with you. So I moved for a fresh start, right? It's like things weren't working out, or I was bored and things were shifting. And so I moved for a fresh start, and it was wonderful. I loved the area. I volunteered with Moat Marine. I started my marketing business, but I wasn't joyful, right? That inner joy I had to work really hard at my business, and I put way more energy into it than I was getting out, which is, part of the clue now that I share with people. That imbalance in itself is a clue, right? We can't force progress, and we can force it to a certain extent. I get this image of a rubber band or some kind of, like being around, say, a tree, and you can go so far and on grit and persistence, and you see that forward momentum, but it gets harder and harder until you learn what it is, right? And releasing the emotions and really tuning into the experiences of why those things are not in balance. And that's part of that spiral that will allow you to, like I said, expand outward. So at that time, I ended up leaving Florida. I was here for 3 years. I was a little homesick. I'm originally from Michigan. I did not have a relationship down here. And I felt myself thinking at that time, if only I had, right? If only I had a partner to help me with the, I would be happy, I would feel happy. And by the way, I wouldn't have to be sole responsible for my income. And, when you have your own business, it's a little challenging for those of you out there who have their own businesses, right? And I felt myself going through those thoughts. And I even went to a psychic for advice at the time. And she had told me, honestly, I see you staying. I see your energy here. You're not done. Like, you need to stay here. Well, thank God I followed my own intuition, because I just said, nope, I need family. I need, that earth energy balance and nurturing. I just felt done. And, the next several years, I went back in time. My mom was sick with lung cancer, or redeveloped it, or, kind of was re-diagnosed with it, I suppose, after I had been up there for a month, and worked through that. I'm just being raw here. I claimed bankruptcy. I had health concerns. I was dealing with dizziness and vertigo in my body. But at the same time, I felt like I just surrendered. Everything made me surrender that. And lo and behold, that's also when I met my now husband. So, we traveled together. We did things. We've grown. We moved to North Carolina. We're there 13 years. And never in a million years would I have thought I'd be back here. In fact, his parents bugged us, right? They live here. Come to Florida. And I'm like, nope, I don't want to repeat. That's the old me, right? I kept thinking that's like going back, in time. Like, I don't want to go back there. And without taking up the full hour explaining how or why, changed cities multiple times, house contracts, and lo and behold, we ended up back here. And our dream home for now, right at the Sarasota-Bradenton line. And so I had to think, oh my gosh, right? Here I am again. But from the reflection point of it, it's interesting that I'm coming back here with everything gratefully, right, in my life that I had been searching for before, and have the opportunity to truly now, embrace everything and continue to and back into my own business again, right? So is my husband, and, we're together and we're just enjoying being here. And so that's kind of what I mean by full spiral. It's like we're back here, but to look and reflect at the path that has been taken to really grow to the place that I had desired to be. I guess that's a form of manifestation, but it was a manifestation that took, 16 years. So I had a lot to, to heal and to grow through. But, we always can find how we've grown if we really become still and search back in little increments. Even a year ago, where have you been? Where have you grown? What have you learned? Because, life will tend to bring back into your energy the opportunity to practice, practice or own your power, right, with what you've learned. So even though you might realize something inward and your energy has changed and your knowledge has changed and your consciousness has risen, I feel like we need the opportunity to practice that masculine form of, I guess the feminine receiving and learning. And that will only propel our own power more, right? Our empowerment. Now I see this from a different perspective. I'm not reacting in the same way. I'm able to make the choice that is now more in line with who I am today. And seeing that version of yourself with kindness and love and nurturing, because all we can do is be our best, right? We're never perfect, and we're always evolving as long as we're here on Earth. Yeah.
And I think, Karen, that your story sounds very familiar to mine and to many. I think there's many times in our lives that, in my story, I also came back to a part of North Carolina, to Charlotte. After living Charlotte for so many years, I came back to the same area that I was before. And I remember at what point in my life, I remember thinking, oh no, if I ever move, I would never move to the same area of somewhere where I have lived before. I would try always to be something different, something exciting, new. And what now I'm here in the same area, in the same, but, and this is a spiral that you're talking about. I don't see it, I don't feel it, because even though I'm in the same area and it sees with my eyes, I'm in the same area, it doesn't feel the same. It is so much bigger, it's so much, that feeling of content, that feeling of peace, of being where you're supposed to be, regardless of where you will be going, because nothing is forever, like you know. But I see that it's more the feeling thing of where we are, and seeing how everything comes into its own place. And I think that's what you're talking, and that's what many people, when they talk about coming full cycle or coming full spiral, that is the difference. And it's only after you have lived it that you understand the meaning behind.
Yeah, the experience is key, right? We can't think or talk ourselves out of, or talk ourselves into learning. There's a place for positive thinking, and then there's a place for truly experiencing, emotions. In fact, this is a perfect time. I just want to share before I forget that I do have a gift that I have. It's a free ebooklet on my webpage, and it's titled "Don't Overthink." So it's just scroll down, and I'll email it to you. And it's only 8 pages, and it talks about that. It talks about why or how positive thinking and how the mind works in terms of, changing how we think and believe, but how that experience and emotional processing is honestly more important than positive thinking, because emotions and processing the emotions will help you to become emotionally resilient. And then it's that emotions that we don't control as part of our nervous system, our subconscious, that really influence our mind more than our own conscious thought. So once you heal that and you up-level the emotions or transform those, guess what? You're able to become more mindful naturally. That mind resiliency is there. So anyway, that's a free download right now on my website because it speaks to, exactly what you had just said as well, right? Where things are just different and the experiences are different. And that's exactly it. We need to experience, we need to process the emotions. And a lot of people don't want to do that because there's this perception that, I'll have to go back and relive the pain, fear, or stress. And that's not what I'm speaking about. It's not that deep. You're not reliving the story. You don't want to relive the story. You don't have to relive the story. You just have to learn how to and allow yourself to just process the emotion so it has somewhere to go. And there's an exercise in there to help become more aware, and I mean aware internally, that IT of the InSPIRItation that I speak about a lot. And, it's really that inner work, that inner awareness and observation that will allow you to move forward. So even if you're in a circle, right, or this coming full circle and you're like, nope, I'm not, nothing's different, it's all the same. If you learn how to practice this awareness, you will see even the minute difference that will allow you to move forward. I could stand in front of my door, just spin around and hit the door. And I could do it again and hit the door, right? I could do it around and hit the door. I mean, eventually I'm going to do it and say, okay, I've learned not to just spin around and hit the door, right? I mean, that in itself is awareness. There's got to be a better way. It's from the very simplistic to, those who can look and really see the tremendous shift of internal evolution and change that allows them, right, to grow spiral. We're going to spiral back to the same sort of part on that circle, but it's ever evolving. And then we're able to truly feel better, truly feel joy, and that's what goes out in the world, and that's what helps us with manifestation and the alchemy, really, of it naturally, versus having it be some sort of routine or steps or follow this practice or this is for you, right? It becomes internal, it becomes your own alchemy, which is so powerful.
Karen, before we started this conversation, we were talking about preparing yourself for when you're having a conversation. Like we were talking about how sometimes you have to present a topic or you have to talk about something, and you do all these writings, these readings, these preparation for, and sometimes you are not allowed to do such. And it's not that someone comes here and grabs you, but it's like something inside of you tells you not to. Why do you think that happens, and how can that help us also?
Well, it's interesting because normally I have at least an outline to follow, and as I was preparing for this topic, just nothing seemed like it resonated. And part of my learning and this spiral with speaking is learning my own way and my own path. I was trying to do the ABC approach, right? Start with a lesson, tell a story, reiterate the lesson, or a speaker cookbook recipes, or have an outline and then go back to the outline and summarize. And sometimes that works, but if I follow my own advice and go within and how that makes me feel, or how that makes you feel when you have to do a task, I couldn't do it. I just walked. I'm like, maybe tomorrow it'll come to me. Maybe tomorrow it will come to me. And then, here we are today, and it needed to be organic. I don't know why. But I do know more about myself in that I don't know a whole lot about this, but there's a human design approach, and I know that I am a generator, and part of my unique chart of that is I thrive with interaction. And so interpersonal interaction, one-on-one, a conversation, I love the back and forth. I get the energy, I get the information, and then my clairs start kicking in, right? It's like something will come to me, a moment, a picture, a memory that I share. And I just have to trust that somebody, doesn't have to be thousands of people. No, it can be one person that needed to hear that. And even when I started my nonprofit, that's what I had said. If one person, if one family, if one pet is helped from this, hey, success for me, right? And so that has grown over, more than a decade, and I'm learning full spiral back to that approach, but I didn't notice that at first, right? We don't equate one part of our life to another. Who would, have equated it's career still, I suppose you could say, but when I started the foundation, I remember that was one of my core values. And so why did I lose that I didn't really lose it, but not remember that as I started speaking? It's like all of a sudden, this was an area that was a little bit more unfamiliar to me. Business was my life. I was in marketing. I was a chief marketing officer. It was more prevalent, and speaking was always part of the job, right? As the public speaker for events on news channels and things like that, or to promote events. And I always had this list of things to say, and I could only say it in 2 minutes or less, and to be concise. And now it's like, whoa, I have all this freedom, and how do I rope that in? So I had to go every single part of that spectrum. I remember one show, in fact, it was a few years ago with you, Claudia. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get this. I'm going to retype out the speech. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have it here to look to. And I'm sure that it came out okay. In fact, I took the courage to re-listen to it probably 2 months after the fact. I thought it was, here's me, right? Self-judgment that we all go through. I felt it was awful because I was trying to stick to this script. And then me and my hands, and if you see me in person, I'm just like, I'm expressive with my hands. And, I go off on a story and then I'm like, oh my gosh, where was I in this prepared speech? And then, I felt like I just, was off kilter, couldn't find it. I was pausing. And so I learned, okay, this must not be the right way for me. And then, it just kind of trial and error. And so often, myself included, would be ourselves, why can't I get this right the first time? Why don't I know my style? Well, you gotta find it, and it is that trial and error to learn who you really are. And if it doesn't meet or conform to what the majority of people or experts are saying, that's okay. Drop that limiting belief because you are following your path. You might not know what it is at that moment, but you are being authentic and you are being true to yourself, and you're going to feel that in your heart, and you're going to have that confidence, and somehow that's, going to come full spiral, right, back to you, and to just, have that conviction of being you. And so, yes, to answer your question, I've tried every avenue to find my style, and I think this was my own way to practice it, right? There was a part of me that was like, okay, here I am, Claudia, we're just going to have this coffee chat and see what comes up. And it's so unusual for me because those of people who knew me, especially, right, in business, I was very much a perfectionist, a type A personality. And so learning and healing through that with what I do in terms of the energy healing, that, these have been defense mechanisms. And a lot of that had to do with past trauma, of wanting to be accepted and having been not so much physically abused, but, emotionally or mentally. And there is no Cinderella story in my story. I don't have, and not to discount anybody who has a wonderful lesson in healing to help those who do, but I used to feel less than because I'm like, gosh, I didn't have this huge traumatic childhood if I compare, right, myself to others. And yet it's been this path of transformation. It's just step-by-step transformation. Mine is very much a story of that. It's not this Cinderella story. It's learning about yourself, learning about myself each step of the way to create that spiral. And there are so many people out there that I've come into contact with that I don't want to say have a sense of relief, but it goes back to that. And I know Me Too has like another meaning, but in my Me Too, it's like just we're alike, right? Oh my gosh, I have somebody who I can relate with who can not really validate me, but, all of us want some sort of, confirmation that we're not screwing up, or we're on the right path. And so very much so, stemming from, the speaking exercise, spiraling into the conversation of be yourself again and learning each step of the way and healing each step of the way. Not everything has to be this big, gigantic move. Look, it took me 16 years, and I'm not saying it has to take 16 years, don't get all the rest, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, wow, it's been this journey. And, we're all kind of wounded healers, but that's part of my path so that it doesn't have to take somebody 16 years, right, to get to their next level of where they want to be. And it's a journey, that's for sure. Did I answer your question, or did I?
No, yes, of course.
Go full spiral around it.
No, it's just a beauty. And, because I love that point where it shows when we are vulnerable, right? Like we all have our things, those things that we have to do the certain way for us to feel secure or more confident or protected in a way. become who we truly are. And when we are in this path of evolution, well, it's going to come a point where you have to come full spiral to who you are and start all over. So when we are in a point of starting all over, Karen, what are those tools that can help us with that process of going the next step without feeling, oh my God, here we go again, or I can't believe I'm here again. Like, what are those things that you can help us with that process?
Yes, thank you. When we're challenged, and you come full circle, just like you said, always start from the emotional standpoint versus the mind. The mind is going to try to figure it out or piece together or ask the questions or say, here you are again, right, and start that limiting belief system or ego. And so you want to go from the heart, and the heart is the ability to feel. And so often as women, especially, we think that we're feeling. In fact, maybe some have been dubbed as too emotional, and that has influenced you. I encourage you to get rid of any thought, preconceived notion of what it means to really tune into your heart and your feelings and just allow. Even saying, I allow myself to feel and I allow myself to heal, because it's truly the emotions and the feelings that are creating this illusion of full circle versus full spiral. And so when you can process those emotions, and what do I mean by process? I'm not talking about therapy and going to, you can, but you really have the power within you to do it yourself. It just takes some awareness. And this is, I'll give you a quick example of that 5-step exercise. That's part of that ebook that I spoke about before, which is available. It's just 8 pages. It's really short. It's on my website. But taking the 5 W's, and I put them in a different order. So mine is what, when, where, who, and why. And this is really meant to be done when you're not in in a state of that emotion, right? Just allowing that emotion to be felt. But when you have a moment to reflect, this is the perfect exercise to help you with it. So really going into what am I feeling? What are the emotions? And just get out the basic ones. What is it? List them, and challenge yourself. So many people might have difficulty with knowing what their emotions are. And so this is in itself a wonderful exercise to even become more acquainted with feelings and emotions. We know what happy is, we know what sad is, we know what anger is, but maybe even having, asking or being still to say, what else is there, right? Anger is often, I don't want to say a mask, but it can, the underlying emotion is often sadness, right? Or anger always shows us where our boundaries are not clear, or we're not honoring our own boundaries, or we haven't created our own boundaries. And you might find some more emotions that, maybe it's rage, maybe it's loneliness that you're feeling, maybe it's powerless, so really just give yourself the time to tune into you, and don't just stop at the angry, sad, happy. I mean, that's a great start, but really kind of, sit with it. And then this is part of observation. So that's awareness, right? When I talk about awareness and the InSPIRItation, the IT, the inner awareness, instead of the outer awareness, right? What's happening external to us, go within. And then the when part of that is ask yourself, when have I felt this before? When has this come up before? You can have freedom with this. You could, depending on your situation, maybe it's a situation with work, and you see, this always happens in a job when I reach a certain part in so many years in a job. Or maybe you'll see that it happens in different areas of your life. This happens, with a relationship after a certain part, and in work, you just start to see your own pattern and the own puzzle, because this will give you clues. And then I also encourage, where do you feel these emotions in your body? And some might have more prominent issues that they could be dealing with, but I don't even mean anything diagnosable per se. Just to be still. Where is this anger? Where is this loneliness feeling? And it's a practice to become in tune with your body. It could just be a tingle. It could be an itch you suddenly get right on your knee or your toe, or something, is just an ache, or not even like a heaviness, right? Just become in tune with your body, because our bodies are what holds the emotions. And so when you're able to recognize it, it's like saying hello. And I'm borrowing that from Crystal, because she said that in one. Saying hello to an aspect of your body gives it permission. It's like, oh my gosh, you recognize me, right? Giving a permission to move and to change. So that's the what, when, and where. What emotion? When have I felt it before? Where is this in my body? Then the who. Who is involved in things when you felt like this before? Has it always been a boss? Has it been a figurehead? Has it been a parent? Has it been a coworker? Has it been a child? Just certain, again, awareness and observations will help you to put these puzzle pieces together. And then the why is something that you can spend as much time in as you want, and you can come back to it, which is, why am I really feeling this way? So even though you identified the emotions at the beginning, right, that over-encompassing awareness of what am I feeling, ask yourself why. And this kind of lends itself to the marketing strategist of me previously. It always, the why. What makes people tick, right, in marketing? Why would people want this? Why, why is this why would people want to pursue this product or service? This is the same thing. Why am I feeling this anger? What is it? And you can even I talk to myself versus writing it sometimes, because it's easier. I'm like, well, I've seen this pattern. I wrote it down. I see that this is a pattern with past jobs. And every time I would get 2 or 3 years in, my superiors wouldn't listen to me. I had these great ideas, and yet they treated me like I had no knowledge. I couldn't be, seen. I felt not seen or heard, like I was beating my head against a wall. And it's like, wow, and I really uncover more of the original occurrence, so to speak. So I feel, I don't feel seen or heard. I'm not validated, right, as how I would have explained it for myself. I have all of this knowledge, I went to school, I know what I'm talking about, yet I keep getting shut off. I keep getting, shunned. And then you write all these emotions down, and those are what then you sit with to process. And that's actually what I do in a session. And I actually teach how to process those emotions through the senses, because that's what you need to do. So feelings of like shunned, or I can't remember what other ones I put up in that example.
Frustration,
not seeing, frustrated, not seeing, yeah. And then those are what you need to process out of the senses. You need to see it. You need to, smell it, taste it. And this might sound a little strange, but, and feel it, because that's how we get these patterns in our system, is from experience, right? Coming back to that, we have to experience it. We have to experience life. We have to experience all of the gamut of emotions, because we grow that way. So even though there are things that are unpleasant, it's there to teach us a lesson. And I love the poem by Rumi that talks about, I think it's called The Guest House, right? Invite the emotions in. So just changing perspective of what emotions are, instead of being like, there are no bad emotions. We always like, we don't like to feel, anger or sad or disappointed. But when you can look at them as a gift to help you to move through them, knowing that doing so will allow you to feel the emotions that your heart really wants to feel, that joy, that purpose, that aliveness, that independence, it helps you, right? It gives some motivation. And that's what I really talk about with, inspiration versus InSPIRItation. When we're inspired, it's a love, and we've talked about this in another one of my Inspirational Series, but I guess to quickly recap, inspiration is wonderful because there's nothing else that could get us out of feeling stuck, right? It has to be something that really excites you or that, I want to do this. And it's a present moment. It's a present moment experience because you're taking things from outside of you. You hear something that someone says, you watch, even a TV show, or you learn something new and it's like, yes, I want to do this, or I'm finally inspired, right? Or it could even be from your own work that you have done. It doesn't, but you've done something external normally to get that inspiration. And then a lot of the time we lose that inspiration because we continue to search outside of ourselves. We look for the blueprint of others to help us, like me, right, with the speaking. And, I'm not familiar with this, so I'm going to look to the experts to, help me through this. And that's great because we do need other people. So I do encourage that, but to not give 100% this is the way, because your blueprint is never the same as somebody else's, right? It's just like a snowflake. We're all different. Or building, I use this a lot, building your dream home with the blueprint, the architectural blueprints of your neighbor's home. Will you build a home? Yeah. Is it what you really dream about or desire? When you build on somebody else's foundation. So take bits and pieces of it. I call them golden nuggets, and you know them by how you feel. Oh, okay. I learned this from this person. Or even they mentioned a book for me to read. Maybe that's how you got out of, somebody's talk that you paid for. And instead of getting frustrated that, okay, I paid whatever, these hundreds of dollars for this social media expert to help me get, 1,000 likes, and I only got, 150. Pay attention to your feelings, right? When has this happened before? Go into that, but ultimately look for what that golden nugget is. Even if it's, okay, I've learned to follow my own guidance a little bit more, or to wait before I jump, right? Give it a day. Does this still feel good? Maybe I should have asked for references. What did I do differently? What did I learn? And that's that next step. So that IT is really that inner transformation of always going within for the next step.
Yeah, and sometimes also to learn about our patience. Like many of the things that we see today will not be shown at the speed that we wish, but they are there.
Exactly. That's a hard lesson. It was for me, I should say, because once I feel inspiration, I want it now, right? Instant gratification. And I really feel like, speaking from a marketing background, a lot of, I hate to say unethical. That's not really what I mean. But, one of the reasons I got out of marketing was it never really sat right with me, right, to utilize certain aspects of people's behaviors. And I wanted to really help them. And so now, anyway, to go back to the patients, is that people want things now. People want a quick fix. The 5 steps to get rich quick, follow these 5 steps. And there's nothing wrong with going forward with that if you really feel inclined to. And maybe it will, right? I don't want to say that it won't, but ultimately, you wouldn't ask, a 3-month-old baby, to walk just because they want to walk and they have this desire and you see them. It takes time. They need to grow. They need to heal. And then they're able to take that first step. And we need to have the same patience with ourselves and look at it as, as a gift, because we have to grow and change ourselves to reach our dream versus, lassoing it and pulling it to us. And when we try to do that, that's when that discord comes into play. And we get frustrated because then we're like, well, this isn't happening for me. Maybe I'm not meant to do this. Or you start to go into that lack of, self-worth kind of feeling, or why me? And maybe this was a mistake. And, then you spiral back into the mind, right, and the limits instead of feeling empowered from the feeling. So patience is key. And when you're when you're still having trouble with patience, or for me, I have this nervous energy sometimes, like, well, sitting still is wonderful, but if you can't do something creative, or even just go for a walk, I've gotten back into dancing and I love it, right? And trying a new instrument, or painting, or drawing, or, do something that will still allow you to move that energy through you without, turning that circle and hitting the wall at the same time. You allow yourself that time to learn and grow. So you're like, oh, I can reach out to the door handle now, right? Before you didn't see the door handle because it just wasn't your level of sight or knowing or consciousness to do that. So allow yourself that gift to grow and to move through versus forcing it. And believe me, that's something I still work with. I haven't mastered that. I'm still working through that every day, right? But there's that consciousness, there's that learning, there's that spiral. I recognize it now. Right? Or before I didn't recognize it. I just, okay, I got to do, go to this. And at the end of the day, I'd be tired. And I'm like, well, that was worthless. I only got one, email back for that. Or nobody responded to my phone calls for, reaching out for speaking opportunities or whatever it is. Now I recognize when it's that old pattern and say, is this really what I feel? Like, that's that intuition. Is this beneficial today? That's why paying attention to your body and that exercise is important, because you become in tune with your vessel, your body, and its intricacies really is the master, in your life. Your soul, your mind, your body all work together, not separately. And we tend to do things separately. We tend to practice present moment techniques or meditation, and separately from, and then we go to heal the body and go to massage therapists, or we eat properly, or we do all these things, and then another time we'll practice mind techniques. And I compare it to juggling. You can juggle one at a time, or you can learn to juggle them together and see how they integrate. And what integrates them is the same thing I've been saying before, is really the emotions and the experiences. When we can free ourselves from that, then the spiritual practices, come in, right? Then you're able to be more in tune with your higher self and your direction and your intuition. And then your mindfulness practices, right? The limiting beliefs, that's working. You're working through those as well. So your mindfulness techniques work better, because those emotions aren't saying, I know you want to think this, but this is my experience. And, our protective mechanism within our body, that subconscious is going to win every time. So you learn to work with them all together and integrate. And then the body, the health of the body supports the mind back. And it's like this, I in my mind's eye right now, I see like these infinity symbols, like going all through each of those three areas, like this beautiful, kaleidoscope. Of course, I didn't even try to do that, Claudia.
And Karen, I love that you remind us that we are our best teachers. We are our healers and ultimate the treasure hunters of ourselves. But I like also that you offer our listeners or our followers to be their guides, to teach them how to learn the process of InSPIRItation and to go back to themselves and how to get in touch with their heart's desires. So how can they reach you?
I am giving a live and online class next weekend, actually, September 18th and 19th. It's not recorded for a reason. I might record part of it, but there's, I shared with you before that I love to interact with people, and that's important to me. So it's called Inspirational Living, and I talk about more in depth what InSPIRItation is versus inspiration, how to sustain the motivation within, some tools and techniques, more than we've talked about here, to be in touch with the energy of your body and going within, and how to go within to find out, to become in touch with that IT that levels up that inspirational movement. And then I teach a process that I learned, it's the backbone of my energy sessions. It's a process called the Lifeline Technique. And I share the process, how to transform those emotions through the senses, like I talked about earlier. So, and this is so I'm teaching you. It's something that I teach you to do on your own. That is my calling. I would love to teach, in all honesty, more than a one-on-one session, but I also love to work with people one-on-one. It's an hour and a half session. Sometimes it can be longer, to help people really feel what it feels like to shift when you're working with the emotions, and you experience it firsthand. And then, of course, the teaching part is how you can help do this, or how you can do this for yourself, right? And it's a wonderful technique. It's called the Lifeline Ignite portion of that. And I teach tools such as muscle reflex testing. So how do you know when you've reached? There's so many different ways to do this. This isn't one way. You don't have to muscle reflex test. You can use intuition. We talk about it. We talk about different ways, because I'm a proponent for not just blindly following one blueprint. So I talk about the theory, and I give different ways that could resonate with you to connect with that truth, and one way of processing through the senses, and that opens the door for, I might have another way, right? And in fact, I would encourage that. But I give you a foundation to go from. And this class is $197. It's normally $500 because I do include healing within the course. And I'm doing this as kind of like a foundational price, because this is a new class format that I'm adding both together, the inspirational living part of it with practical tools. And that's on my website. Again, you can go to the KarenFullerton.com, the sessions page, and you'll see a flyer there that will say Inspirational Living. You can click on the flyer. You can reach out to me as a one-on-one Zoom or call for more information, and there's a registration link right there. And you will get a handbook and some materials to go along with the class.
Well, thank you. Is there anything else that we should know before we finish today's program?
No, just, be kind to yourself is just one thing I'd like to say, and to remind everyone that you're already on your right path. You truly are. So be kind to know that you're doing the best that you can, and have the courage to reach out when you need help. And I just wish you much love and gratitude.
And thank you so much for this highly inspirational podcast, Coming Full Spiral, Karen Fullerton. Have a wonderful weekend, and goodbye.